Want to know a simple way to beat stress, fatigue, and get better sleep? Magnesium. The only one I use, Magnesium Breakthrough from BioOptimizer. It helps me relax more, stress less, and sleep deeper. What's not to love? When you get all 7 critical forms of magnesium, your body gets a serious upgrade from your brain to your sleep, pain, and inflammation, the muscle, tension. Guys, you know taking care of your body and your brain is more important than ever. And with one simple action, you can start feeling the benefits quickly. Go to www.magnesiumbreakthrough.com/Chael to get 10% off. Use the promo code Chael10. You'll also get a free biological optimization blueprint book, which will cover tons of awesome tips for unlocking better health. So click on the link in the description or pinned comment to claim your discount and try the power of magnesium for yourself. 170, right? Right in everybody's spotlight. Main event, crowds returning. They sold out. I want to say it was like 48 minutes. It was something crazy. All this focus going around the champion versus the BMF champion. BMF belt not being discussed, BMF title not on the line. I got a huge problem with that, but apparently Usman doesn't, right? So I have no standing in this matter. If Usman brought this up, I would co-sign it and I would help him to drive this home, but he didn't bring it up. So I have what's called standing. I have no standing in the matter, but apparently a champion can go fight and not have to put his belt up for grabs. Fine. I'll deal with it. Point is still the same, which is 170 pounds is right in the spotlight, right in the focus, while simultaneously being the most annoying weight class we've got. I mean, getting the competitors and getting the guys to the field, get them out of the dugout and onto the field at 170 pounds is a challenge like I've never before seen. Even if you were to look at Masvidal sat out. Masvidal took his ball and he sat out. Turned out he got his way. But I don't want you guys, please, to study what Masvidal did and then think this is what I need to do. Look how well it worked for him. Okay, this was a unicorn. And Masvidal, the only difference in fighting from the title or being unemployed is he got called out on ESPN by the champion. Look, if you ever get the blessing of the champion, you're going to get the fight. And it's very similar to what I keep talking to you guys about. As you're having the argument of should it be Whitaker or should it be Vettori, hold the thought on who it should be. Izzy's going to decide. Izzy is very powerful and he's very wise, and people listen to him because they respect the fight that he will ask for the hardest thing possible. That's why he gets to continue to ask. And that's why I keep letting you know Darren Till is not out of this conversation because Adesanya hasn't spoke up yet. But it is what happened to Usman. That's how I tie these two together. Usman came out as the champion after defeating Burns, and he called for Masvidal. So Masvidal, who was sitting out in many ways being a little baby about things, everything's working out. Don't study that and think that you can get that same deal, right? And if there's anyone that you really would like to observe, particularly in the last 3 years, for how you reinvent and reemerge yourself later in your career, Masvidal's the guy to study. Masvidal and marketing and being the guy he is, which, by the way, is not an act. There is no character here. He just realized, wait a minute, I'm a pretty interesting guy. I might as well go in front of the cameras and let him know. Masvidal's a guy to study. But don't miss this. Do not miss how Masvidal got the title fight. Do not think that you need to sit out, that you need to make demands. Masvidal got a rare opportunity because he got the blessing of the champion. It's very important that you see that. I think that most of you do. I don't think that class is exactly in session here today. I think I just stated for you the obvious. But if you missed it, it's very important because 170 pounds, we have other guys trying to copy Masvidal. You are not Masvidal. You are not the BMF champions, and you're not the biggest star in the sport. George Masvidal is the biggest star in the sport. And yes, you can argue Conor McGregor, and you may be right. But I think you still understand the point that I'm making. He is massive. He is worth a lot more, and he has done a lot more than almost any human being has done or will ever do. And he wouldn't have gotten this shot if he hadn't got the blessing of the champion live on ESPN. I share this because if you try to copy the playbook and you wonder why you don't get the same result, the day that you've beat as many men as George Masvidal and the day that you've sold as many tickets as George Masvidal is likely to never come. And even George Masvidal, absent of being called out by Usman himself, would not be in the spot. Because as we look at 170 pounds, I don't want the rest of these knuckleheads that are doing something called squat on your spot, okay? A term that I heard from Errol Hawani and didn't really like it the first time I heard it. Squat on your spot. I didn't like it, but you know what? Get used to the vernacular because that's what it's being called and it's what guys are doing. And it worked out for Masvidal, which makes me wonder, is this going to work for other guys? We got to stop it right now. We can't let this work. There has to be some kind of a qualification. There just has to be. And the one thing that mixed martial arts does not have is a competitive architecture. Now, most other sports do in the form of a bracket. Even the playoffs for the National Football League or the National Basketball Association. Every event that will be contested in this summer's Olympic Games, they will all come with a bracket. Meaning, here's where you are, and if you win, you advance here. You advance until you get the finals game, and one team is the champion. We don't have that in MMA, but we shouldn't be as loose. We should not be as loose as that because there's not a competitive architecture in place, we therefore aren't going to fall or adhere to anything, including inactivity. Now, my thought is not fully formed. My thought is a little bit clumsy. I got a hold of the right tool, but I got it by the wrong end. It's going to require a little bit of thought, a little bit of groupthink, which is why I'm bringing you guys in on this. Let's get this conversation started. But you should not be able to sit out X amount of time and walk into a world title fight. Why? Because it's just not safe. In many ways, it's just not safe. Walking into a 5-round atmosphere, why were you out for a period of time? And there's only a couple of reasons. You were injured. You were suspended. You were sick. There's only a few, you had retired. There's only a few reasons why you would be out over a year. But if you were to walk right in to the most dangerous spot in all of sports, a world title fight standing across from Kamaru Usman, you should have to prove to some extent within some period of time that you're ready for that. We got to have some kind of system. I mean, look, even to Jake John Jones, as good as he is, but to throw him up a weight class where he's going to give up 30 pounds of muscle and expect that through sitting on his ass for 16 months, he's going to be ready. It seems irresponsible to some degree. Now, do we take it from the notion of safety? That's not the hill I want to die on. We could take it from the notion of competitiveness. We could take it from a notion, if you're not doing something, oh, and by the way, Gilbert Burns has done it 3 times since you've been sitting out, we got to give it to Gilbert. We could take it from any notion that you want. All I offer for you is there has to be a period of time when if you don't make that walk, you're excluded from being able to make that walk. There has to be some kind of a policy of some degree. Come in and compete with somebody. Maybe it's a 3-round contest, but show us all that you can do it. And there has to be an acceptance and a demanding of this from the audience so that the fellow competitors don't go out, do absolutely everything right, but have opportunities taken away. Fair is not part of my vernacular when I tell you guys about life. Life isn't fair. I understand those things. Sport is not fair. I understand those things. You take what you can get when you can get it. I understand those things. There still needs to be something that is rewarding for your Michael Chiesas of the world, who will take on anybody, for your Neil Magny's of the world, for your Hamzat Chimaev of the world, who are willing to do this without resistance, willfully, and who has the attitude of, I don't have to do this, I get to do this. And one step beyond that, it's not I get to do this, it's I want to do this. There has to be a level of that. And we would demand it and expect it from any other sport except this one. But it's always our fans and our practitioners that are so quick to try to compare ourselves to other sports. They love to do that when they can have their hand out. They don't ever want to compare themselves to other sports when it has to do with the fact that Tom Brady will step on the field against absolutely anybody on any given Sunday. Well, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do anything that's hard or that's trying or that is risk-taking. But we want to do everything else. And by the way, add a 0 to it and set it in my palm right here. Right? I mean, it's one of these things where there has to be a level of expectation. And as we're looking at 170 pounds and why it all worked out for Masvidal. And in fairness, what's the other side of this coin, guys? Good thing it did. That's the fight we want to see. It isn't just Masvidal held out like a baby to get his way. Masvidal held up, but now we all get our way. I get excited on Masvidal fight week. There's something to see there. The weigh-ins are different when Masvidal's there. The press conferences are different when Masvidal's there. The night feels different, knowing that Masvidal's music is going to hit those speakers at some point. Not to mention in a live, right? I mean, Masvidal's special. There's something special there. But if it worked for him, what's it going to stop anywhere else? I mean, right, you guys see the dangers that we have seen within this sport. The dangers that we saw the night Masvidal and Leon got into it backstage. If Dana would have made that fight, Dana would have, on accident, told the rest of the roster, go punch somebody, go do something illegal. Just make sure you got a buddy with an iPhone filming it and we'll get you into a main event, right? You see why Dana could not make that fight. It's a very similar situation as to what John Jones did. John Jones put Dana in a... Dana wanted John Jones. Dana wanted John against Francis. Dana wanted John for the title. Dana wanted John for the main event. Dana wanted John to participate and get a big fat check. When John did this publicly, the position he put Dana in is either I can show and reward and have to deal with this in the future from every other fighter, or I can show a respect for guys who are willing to do this, who get to do this, and who want to do this. This is where the message always gets lost, and I'm not clear where this whole thing's going to fall. I'm not clear where it's going to play out. If you are a promoter, you have a job, and you've got to make fights. So there's certain things that you have to put up with because you're against the clock. You've already promised your distribution partners. You've already promised, in this case, ESPN. You've already promised the audience. You've already promised a live ticket holder. So if somebody starts to get squirrely on you and they think they've got all the time in the world, they do have a little bit of upper hand because you don't. You've already got written that you're gonna be at that finish line. You're gonna be at the start of the race, you're gonna be at the finish of the race on time every time. Do you want to work with people that see it that way? Or do you want to work with the guys that stay active and stay busy? I was very curious, and I kept my mouth shut, but as an outsider, I was very curious how Dana was going to handle this John situation. Because of the example and the precedent that would have been set, it could have brought this industry to a screeching halt. If Dana White would have given in to John Jones's public demands, it could have brought our entire sport to a screeching halt. Are you guys aware of the deal-making process in the judicial system, right? Big example here, but one that you'll be able to relate to. You'll always hear so-and-so made a deal or so-and-so is going to plea. Our entire judicial system is built around deal-making because there's too many people that have been charged with too few of judges, too few of courtrooms. We just simply can't hold a trial for all of them. We simply can't sequester a jury. We must. It's all predicated on timeliness of deal making, which is done for expediency. But we've got to have that in this realm too. There has to be guys that are willing, who want to do this, that want the opportunity first. Dana came out, he was speaking at 170 pounds, and he said that if Usman is to defend, meaning he beats Masvidal, making the series 2-0 Usman, that they will then go to Colby. Colby is not subject to this. You guys have a short-term memory, because I've heard many people say this. I've heard many people say, well, Colby's done the same thing that Usman did, and Colby has held out. Guys, that isn't true. That's factually incorrect. You're forgetting that Colby fought T. Wood. That was one of those, I have read more articles. I don't know who got that wrong. But you are forgetting that. Colby is not set out. I just read a headline on one of the dirt sheets that I go to. Covington's last fight was against Usman. Excuse me, that's not true. Colby has fought since then. By the way, he fought in a main event since then. By the way, he fought a world champion since then. And it's very off-putting to me that I have to remind you of that. Colby has been very clear that he wants to fight for the belt. No, Colby sees it the way I do, which is 170-pound, has 2 belts. You've got the undisputed champion, but you also have the BMF champion. Those are belts. Those matter. Those matter to the guys. The guys that are willing to put their lives on hold and sacrifice within this sport have a vision. They got 2 belts, double the opportunity at 170. Colby's last fight was not against Usman. His last fight was against a former world champion, and he won. And Dana's now come out and said that, yes, he would make the rematch between Kumar and Colby. Perfect. Perfect. I do believe that if Masvidal wins, that's still the match to make. And the one difference would be if Kumar Usman stubs his toe this weekend and Masvidal takes his belt from, I think that it's all fair to also have the conversation of making part 3 and giving Usman the same opportunity that he's already given Masvidal twice. I'll adhere to that. I don't have a tremendous problem with it. I do have a problem with the story not being told correctly, and I do feel that when I'm reading headlines that Colby Covington hasn't fought since Kumar Usman, shame on you. What happened to T-Wood?